Greetings. In this episode, I will tell you about the history of money in India, from its origins to the beginning of the 20th century. If you find my story interesting and helpful, please subscribe to this channel and give a like. The history of ancient India is divided into several stages. The earliest period is considered to be the time of the Indus, or Harappan, civilization, which existed from the 3rd millennium BC to the 17th century BC in the Indus River Valley. This was a state with large cities, the remains of which have been found near the modern settlements of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro. We know almost nothing about this civilization, and certainly nothing about its monetary system during this period. In the early 2nd millennium BC, India was invaded by tribes of foreign settlers, the Aryans, united into 9 tribes, with the Parata tribe playing a dominant role. The leaders of these tribes were called Rajas, and the leader of the tribal union was called Maharaja. The history of this era is reflected in the monumental epics Mahabharata and Ramayana, as well as in the sacred Hindu texts known as the Vedas. Thus, the following period, 13th to 6th centuries BC, is named the Vedic period, after the Vedas. A distinctive feature of ancient Indian society was its division into 4 varnas, castes: Brahmins, priests; Kshatriyas, warriors; Vaishyas, artisans, farmers, and merchants; and Shudras, servants, the descendants of the conquered non-Aryan populations. This division did not particularly foster the development of internal trade. However, India was far from being a unified country. There were several states that traded among themselves and with external neighbors. The range of goods for foreign trade was dictated by the natural resources of India: spices, rice, ivory, timber from precious trees, and exotic animals were exported. Metals, particularly gold, silver, tin, copper, and lead, were imported. During this period, money took the form of metal ingots, copper, silver, or gold, of a specific weight. The weight system was based on the rati, 0.12 grams, and satamana, 100 rati equals 11.5 grams. In the late Vedic period, coins began to appear. The earliest coins were curved metal sheets, usually silver, weighing 1 satamana. These coins were hammered, not minted with a press, had no specific shape, and bore no inscriptions. Coins were stamped with various symbols, such as animals, hills, trees, and human figures. However, the set of symbols used varied from one state to another. In the post-Vedic period, from the 6th century BC, the main currency unit became the karshapana, a cast metal sheet weighing 32 ratis, or 3.3 grams of silver. There were also fractional karshapanas, half, quarter, and 1/8, as well as copper karshapanas, weighing 80 ratis, about 9.5 grams. Gold karshapanas, called suvarna, were also in circulation. In the 4th century BC, almost all of India was united under King Chandragupta Maurya of the Mughal Empire, which lasted from 317 to 180 BC. During this time, karshapanas and suvarnas continued to be used, but they became more standardized since they were minted in a single central location, taking the form of polygons and circles. By the way, in ancient India, there were attempts to understand the role of money and the financial system in the economy of the country. The most well-known work on this subject is the Arthashastra, written at the turn of the 4th and 3rd centuries BC. The author of this treatise was the court scholar and relative of King Chandragupta, Kautilya Vishnu Gupta, who lived from 375 to 283 BC. After the fall of the Maurya Empire, several kingdoms coexisted in central and southern India. The lands of northern India came under the Indo-Greek kingdom, which existed during the 2nd and 1st centuries BC. Coins were minted here, naturally in the Greek style, though inscriptions were often bilingual. From around the turn of the eras until 375 A.D., northern India was part of the Kushan Empire, which also included present-day Afghanistan and parts of Central Asia. The coinage system, naturally, was strongly influenced by Greek and later Roman civilization. In the Kushan Empire, gold coins weighing about 8 grams were minted, called stater, after the Greek model, or dinar, from the Roman denarius. Copper and bronze coins were used as smaller denominations. From the 4th to the 6th centuries A.D., a large state known as the Gupta Empire existed in northern and central India. Unlike the Kushan Empire, the Gupta Empire primarily controlled Indian territory. Here, as in the Kushan state, the coinage system was influenced by Greek and Roman models. The main coins were the silver drachma, 2 to 3 grams, and the gold dinar, 8 to 9 grams. After the fall of the Gupta Empire and until the 10th century A.D., about 50 states coexisted in India, succeeding one another. Even the larger states that occasionally emerged were, in essence, confederations of small principalities. The most prominent states included several Rajput kingdoms in the north, the Chalukya dynasty in central India, and the Chola dynasty in the south. During this period, silver drachmas remained the principal currency. At the turn of the millennium, the Islamic factor began to significantly influence the historical development of India. From the 10th century onward, rulers of Muslim states located in Afghanistan and Central Asia attempted to invade India. These attempts ultimately succeeded, and in 1206 the Delhi Sultanate was established, covering much of central and northern India. Soon, several separate sultanates emerged from it, each with its own coinage system. In different sultanates, gold and silver, tanka, from the Turkic word for coin, copper, paisas, and other coins like jitails and gons were minted. This state existed until 1526, when one of Timur's descendants, Zahir-ud-Din Muhammad Babur, defeated the Delhi Sultanate and established the new state, which became known as the Mughal Empire, from the word Mongol. In this empire, from the 16th century onwards, the silver rupee was minted for the first time, which later became the main currency unit of India. In addition to silver coins, the Mughal Empire also minted gold mohurs and copper dams. By the early 18th century, this empire fragmented into separate princely states. From the 16th century onwards, European powers began to exert increasing influence in India. Soon after Vasco da Gama's voyage in 1510, the Portuguese captured territory on the western coast of India, where they established their colony in Goa. The Portuguese minted their own coins for their colony. In the 17th century, these included silver sherifins, tanga, and patakas, as well as copper and tin bazaruco. In the 18th century, their coinage included gold and silver sherifins, silver pardaus, and rupees, as well as silver and copper tanga and tin and copper reais and bazaruco. However, the further expansion of the Portuguese was hindered by other European powers also seeking to profit from India. Unlike the Portuguese, whose expeditions to India were financed and organized by the Crown, other European ventures were carried out by companies granted charters by their governments. Among these were the Dutch East India Company, founded in the 17th century on the Coromandel coast, and with settlements in Bengal, the Danish Company, centered in western Bengal, and the French Company, based in Pondicherry on the Coromandel coast. The main coins minted by the French East India Company were Indian rupees and their fractions, gold, pagodas, as well as small change coins. However, the most influential company was the British East India Company, which gradually displaced all the others. The first East India Company was established in England in 1600, the second in 1698, and in 1702 they merged into a single powerful entity. In 1617, the British East India Company was granted the right to trade with India by the Mughal Emperor Jahangir. By the second half of the 18th century, almost all of India was under the control of this company. The company minted coins for India, and the first rupee for India was issued by the East India Company in 1671. However, the quality of the rupees varied from region to region. By the mid-18th century, the British rupees were limited to three types: the Bengal rupee, Sika rupee, the Bombay rupee, Sirat rupee, and the Madras rupee, Arcot rupee. It wasn't until 1835 that a unified silver standard was introduced, which lasted until 1893. Coins of smaller denominations, such as Anna, Paisa, and Pishai, were also minted. 2 Anna coins were made of silver, while all others were made of bronze. The conversion rates between these coins were as follows: 1 rupee equals 16 annas, 1 anna equals 4 paisas, and 1 paisa equals 3 pies. In 1857, dissatisfaction with the rule of the East India Company led to the Sepoy Rebellion. After the suppression of the uprising, the British East India Company was dissolved, and India came under direct rule of the British Crown as a colony of the British Empire. The minting of standardized rupees featuring images of English monarchs began. The total weight of the coin was 11.7 grams. In 1862, this coin came to be known as the government rupee, and it was subdivided into 16 annas, 64 paisas, and 192 pies. In 1861, the Paper Currency Act of India was passed, which granted the British government a monopoly on the issuance of paper currency in India. Banknotes were issued in denominations of 10, 25, 50, 100, and 200 rupees. In 1893, the gold standard was introduced. As in other countries, under the gold standard, paper money was printed and full gold coins, as well as fractional silver and bronze coins, were minted. Thus, the story of the history of money in India, from its origins to the early 20th century, concludes. Goodbye.